What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our series Picks for Nationals. This time, I'll be introducing you into the Trevenant deck, and yeah, let's jump right into it. Um, as we already know from the previous episodes, I won't show you a deck list which you can use. I'll just show you how to tweak it in a way that you can deal with certain matchups. So those are 58 cards, which I think is a good skeleton list and a good starting point. So let's start with case number one. What do we change or do we add in the list if we expect many Night March decks? Okay, so basically, Night March is a very good matchup, especially if you manage to go first, because you have Silent Fear and you have Bursting Balloon. If you have the Forest Curse ability going, they can't play a Fighting Fury Belt, so Bursting Balloon knocks out Joltik and Pumpkaboo. So that's basically a good, very good matchup. But most of the times, the Night March player opts to go for the Shaman Loop, which means that he puts down two Shamans and then attaches a DC per turn onto the active Shaman, and then uses Sky Return and promotes the other Shaman, and so on. That's called the Shaman Loop. And to hinder your opponent on doing that, I would add two Headringers, because if you play down Headringer on the Shaman, they can't use Sky Return for just a DC, and then you can Tree Slam twice and the Shaman is knocked out. Also, you have the possibility to hinder them with Judge. If you play Judge and you item lock them, then it's really hard for them to get the Shaman and the DC again. So yeah, Night March is basically a very, very good matchup, and two Headringers make it even more favorable for you. So let's go back to our starting point and let's move on. What do we do if we have many? If we expect many Greninja decks? Greninja can be kind of difficult if they get a good setup and if they play a high count of Rough Seas. So our main strategy here is to try to manipulate their setup, and we do that. Of course, if we go first with this deck, we just play Wally for Trevenant, and then they have a really hard time getting two Froakies on the bench, and then Water Energy and a Frogadier for the next turn. So we focus mainly on the if case if we go second. And if we go second, we of course have the option to use Ascension with Phantom for no energy if we have Dimension Valley in play, or for one energy. And so Phantom active and Dimension Valley plus Dimension Valley and or energy is not really hard to get. So it's very likely that we get it if we only play a Judge. And Judge is super good in this situation, because if you play Judge onto your opponent and item lock them, it's really hard for them to come back and to get a setup early enough. So I would add another Judge. I think 2 is a fine number if you expect many Greninja decks. 3 are too many, in my opinion, because you can play stuff which is more useful. Also, you have the Bell Compressor in case you want to discard the Judge on your first turn and play it with Versus Seeker. So another really good supporter against Greninja is this little lady here, Delinquent, because you can remove Rough Seas if you don't have the Dimension Value, and you can force them to discard 3 cards, which is also very good, because many Greninja decks, if they in the mid or late game they try to build their hand in a way that they can do as much damage as possible. And most of the time, if they have 6 or a hand size of 6 or 7, most of the time, almost every card of this in their hand is very important to do as much damage as possible. So Delinquent can be really annoying here. So that's the list I would play if I expect many Greninja decks. So let's go back. So the third matchup, which we have a look on, is Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza basically is a very item-based deck. So if you go first, you have a really high, and if you go first and hit the turn 1 Wally, you have a really high probability to win the game simply because you lock down your opponent so badly. If they go second, if they go first, if you go second, if they go first, they will try to put down an energy, maybe 2, to their Rayquazas with Mega Turbo and DC, or just a single basic attachment and a Mega Turbo, and then they only need 1 turn to really set up, and if they do so, the deck is really fast and can knock out multiple Trevenants in consecutive turns. So to hinder them on doing that, I would play Flare Grunt and the Sarosic, because if they attach to the active Pokemon, you can just use Team Flare Grunt and then Ascension and get the item look going. But if they attach a DCE to the benched, you can Sarosic for the DCE and then Ascension item lock. Same thing again. And also I would play 2 Headringers, because if they don't if they don't manage to put a Spirit Link down to their Rayquazas, it's really good to have Headringers, because most of the time the Rayquaza decks don't play a very high energy count. So therefore, every energy they have to pay more hurts them. So Headringer is really good in this matchup. But those are 4 cards. I'll just add them quickly. Flare Grunt, Xerosic, and the 2 Headringers. Of course, we can play more than 60 cards. So we have to cut 2 cards, and in that case I would cut the level ball, because if you go second, you have the probability to start with Phantom is higher than to start with Shaman, because those are the only basic Pokemon. You play 4 Phantoms in a total of 7 basic Pokemon, so it's more likely that you open with Phantom. So the level ball isn't really necessary in that case, because also Phantom is your only searchable thing with level ball. And also I would cut a Battle Compressor, because you don't need the matchup is good if you go first, of course, and hit the turn 1 Wally, because we play 4 Ultra Ball, 3 Shaman, 4 Trainer's Mail and 3 Wally. It's very likely that we get the turn 1 Wally without any Battle Compressor shenanigans. So 1 Battle Compressor seems fine. So I think that's a very good list. Also, it's always good in other matchups to have some kind of energy disruption or energy removal with Flagrant and Sarosic. Also, with Sarosic, it's really good to, for example, discard Fighting Fury Belts if they attach it early enough. So those are really good additions in the deck. But I'll just make it backwards again. So, and the last deck I'll have a look on is if you expect many Yveltal decks. Yveltal is, of course, a darkness-based deck, and we are weak to darkness. Our entire attackers, which is exactly Trevenant, is weak to darkness. And if they go first and they can manage to play well enough to know what they want to do in the following turns, it's easy for them to outplay you because they don't need many energy attachments to deal a lot of damage against Trevenant, and it's easy, even under item lock, it's easy to draw into those energies because they play 4 Sycamore and a very high energy count. So you have a problem if you go second in that matchup, and if they build let's say an Yveltal EX with 2 basic darkness energies, does 60 damage times 2 and that's if we don't have an energy attached to our Trevenant. So, and most of the time we have, so most of the time we do, the Yveltal EX does 80 damage at least. So, and 80 times 2 is 160, which exactly knocks out the Trevenant break. So that's a real bummer. And to kind of make the matchup a little better, if you go second, we can add, oops, where is it? There is it. Weakness policy. Because if they knock out multiple Trevenants with only one Yveltal EX or basic Yveltal, it's really hard for you to come back because you need so many energy attachments and so on. So weakness policy kind of hinders them to take multiple knockouts with a single Yveltal EX. That's for the weakness policy. The matchup isn't good with it anyway, but it's slightly better. So those are the 4 big decks I expect to be big at the following nationals. So I won't go into detail on any other decks like Mega Manectric or other stuff, because those are decks which I expect not to see many of those, and also the matchup is actually really good against those other decks. So there's not much to say about it, about the other matchups. That's for it. I hope you enjoyed it again. Make sure to watch the other videos. There will be at least one more. And we already did the Greninja and the Night March deck. So make sure to check those out. I hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time.